Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a place dedicated to bursting the leftist bubble on a daily basis. Well, that's exactly what we're up to today. I've been saying, especially over the last couple of months, that the 2024 election seems to be shaping up very similar to what we saw in 2016. It feels almost like a mirror image. Based on some of the data that we've analyzed, it feels like something is brewing. We're seeing a lot of mobility. Different voter groups, different demographics seem to be shifting in terms of their priorities, and especially shifting in terms of their political support or political allegiances. And we're also seeing incredible political shifts happening across various different states. I mean, for Pete's sakes, on some polls, New York State is within striking distance for President Donald Trump. That's wild. Not to mention all the supposed inroads the Democrats made in the state of Georgia. Well, it's all been completely flipped on its head, at least according to the early polling data. Nevada's trending rightward, the list goes on. What I keep saying in all of these videos, and especially in these polling analysis videos, is that it feels like something is brewing. There's something bubbling beneath the surface that's about to reveal itself to the shock of many who aren't paying attention. Now look, I'm not going to make any big predictions, any big bold predictions, but I am alluding to something, I am suggesting something, and if it happens, well, I think a lot of people are going to be shocked, but I certainly won't. Folks, we've been talking about political shifts in certain states. Well, this one might be a seismic shift, as supposedly, according to this poll, a shock poll just released, Donald Trump now hypothetically boasts a lead in the state of Washington. And that lead balloons even further to a possible huge lead against Joe Biden if RFK Jr. is introduced into the mix. Yup, you heard that right. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so we got a poll here. This is from the Independent Center. They titled the survey, Pacific Standard Time, the West Coast Weighs In. And there's a whole lot of interesting stuff going on here, but let's really focus on the Washington column. We go through all the basics, like Joe Biden approval, and as you can see in comparison to the rest of these West Coast liberal states, Washington's looking like a red state. It's looking more like Alaska than it is like California or Oregon. Joe Biden's approval rating in the stinker at 39%. When asked the question, do you feel Democrats have chosen the best candidate for the upcoming election, 53% of respondents said no and only 29% said yes. When you ask the same question in reference to the Republican Party, 40% said yes and only 48% said no. Then, of course, the question of age, only 23% have concerns about Donald Trump's age, whereas 62% have concern about Joe Biden's age. Again, we're tracking very similarly to Alaska. Then we asked the question about mental health. Again, Joe Biden not looking so good. And of course, here's what you came here for. The most important question, if this year's presidential election were between Republican Donald Trump and Democrat Joe Biden, who would you vote for? 46% responded Trump and 45% responded Biden. Donald Trump boasts a 1-point lead in a head-to-head matchup in the blue state of Washington. Hypothetically, look, it could be just a shock outlier poll, but it also could be signaling an election landslide. And of course, this is what's jerking the liberal tears. As we know, 2024 isn't going to be a head-to-head race. It's not going to be a two-way race, but rather a three-way race with RFK Jr. in the mix. Well, if you add independent candidates, take a look at what happens. All of a sudden, Donald Trump leads by 5 as RFK Jr. pulls 13% support in the state. This right here could seal the deal for President Trump. Now, of course, it's a little bit too early to be analyzing this particular state with RFK Jr. on the ballot. If you go to Kennedy24.com/ballot access, we have the Ballot Access HQ, which says, welcome to the Team Kennedy Ballot Access HQ. Below, you'll find the information and tools you need to ensure that RFK Jr. is on the ballot in all 50 states in the District of Columbia. Purple states are where his campaign has completed petitioning, where he will absolutely appear on the ballot. The light purple states are in progress, and the gray states, which Washington is one of, are the states where the window has yet to open. So we'll have to see exactly what happens. We'll be following this incredibly closely, but right now, it seems like this state might flip, and it's really no surprise why. Washington has gone the route of Oregon. In other words, over the last couple of years, it's been an utter disaster. Let's call it a leftist disaster zone.
Look at the people walk by. Of course they're not shocked. How could they be? They see it every day.
Damn Lincoln! Shut up! We're driving full! Damn Lincoln! Shut up!
This story is about a beautiful jewel that has been violated and a crisis of faith amongst a generation of Seattleites falling out of love with their home.
That's what Washington residents have to deal with on a daily basis in their major city. Well, you mean to tell me that after years of witnessing all of this mismanagement, squalor, and chaos, That Washington voters, and especially suburban Washington voters, aren't going to be at least considering change? I think it's certainly possible. States never vote the same way forever. You might think that about places like California, but trust me when I tell you, even California will eventually have a political shift. It takes time. The political pendulum goes right, then it goes left. Conservative leadership brings times of prosperity and safety, and then of course people get complacent, people get a little bit, let's say, naive, and overly generous and idealistic, and then slowly the pendulum shifts leftward until all the unintended consequences start kicking in, and then it shifts back as reality sets, and it goes back to the right. Maybe that's happening in all kinds of places across the nation. I keep seeing videos like this.
I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. In fact, I'd rather know the truth, even if it means that I'm wrong. And so with that, I'll say the media played me. They played me really good. See, I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. I loved Bernie. Because for once I saw a politician who actually cared about the people, and I was going to vote for him until something really weird happened, and they totally bulldozed him. Honestly, I didn't want to vote for Trump either because it seemed like he was just in there for no reason. He just got in Bernie's way. So when he did become president, I was really confused because I saw the news talking about how he played too much golf and was firing people in the White House left and right for no reason and talking about what a horrible person he was. And so I started to think this too, for no reason at all. And I was just watching everybody. I watched Donald Trump speak live every single day in his news briefings. And then I saw the news afterwards and how they totally spun his words out of control. You see, I was watching him to see if he was lying or being manipulative. And in my opinion, he just acted like a businessman, straightforward, direct. This is what's happening. This is how we're going to fix it. I saw him being positive and logical, and I didn't see any fear-mongering in him. That came from other people, making predictions that seemed really illogical and too far out into the future, with no basis at all. I mean, I saw who the real players were and how they were trying to use fear to play a game on me. So it was really hard to accept that Trump could be like a good guy, because I watched a lot of SNL and they made fun of Trump, and the news obviously was heavy on the fact that he just was not a trustworthy person. So I will admit that in the near mention of the word Trump just triggered me pretty bad. I did not like Trump at all. But around March 2020, I started talking to my friend, and he said he was in there for a reason, to help our country and to protect freedom. And that's when it all clicked. And I felt so much better about what was going on because it wasn't anything bad. It was actually something really good, even though it looked really scary. I looked more into Trump's character and his background, and I just couldn't find anything. I had no idea why I hated the guy in the first place. So, yeah, I got played, and I never thought I would say this, but I absolutely love Trump. I love him so much. He's a hero in my book, one of my favorite people. And in my opinion, he's going down as the greatest president in American history.
People are having big moments of realization. The same we saw in 2016, the same we saw in 2020, and now the same we're seeing in 2024. It continues to happen. People are realizing that Donald Trump isn't what the media told them. People are slowly coming to the Trump camp, slowly but surely, one person after another, and eventually it's going to have an impact. And obviously it isn't happening on the other side. You don't see people making videos, giving their testimony about how all of a sudden they love Joe Biden. I was wrong about Joe. He's actually so smart and so cool, and totally not corrupt. Yeah, that's not happening. The phenomenon doesn't exist on the opposite side, but this phenomenon continues to expand in relation to Trump support. We actually have some more data.
And Biden seems to be struggling with key demographic groups that he would need to win, and win big, if he stands a chance of being reelected.
John, there is significant softness in the support for Joe Biden among core Democrats. In this poll, he's carrying black voters by 61 points. Well, that sounds like a lot, but he carried them by 84 points back in 2020. Latino voters, a very slight Biden edge in this poll, but it was a 21-point advantage in the exit polls back in 2020. And among younger voters, under 30, we're actually seeing Trump with a slight edge. That was a big win for Biden last time around. It's particularly stark to see that difference among voters of color. Black voters under age 50, far less likely in this poll to say they're supporting Joe Biden than older black voters.
This is what I keep mentioning, something's a brewing. Joe Biden is shedding support like we've never seen before. We covered a poll not too long ago that showed Joe Biden supposedly leading nationally, but if you looked into the crosstabs, we saw that black voters were supporting Donald Trump at 36 points. In other words, a roughly 25% shift towards Trump, well, that's mirrored in this poll. And it gets even worse for Joe with young voters. People who are voting for their future, people who are motivated to vote for their future after seeing all the harm that's been done to them in a mere 4 years under this current clown. It keeps taking me right back to the hypothesis. I guess we'll just end the video by saying it again. It seems like something is a-brewing. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.